So I'm working in the RV today, and I've got the panel open to the water management panel area, and I run across something that I think is kind of silly. This is the water pump, and here is a fuse to the water pump just laying there. It's not attached to anything. And so when I see things like that, I need to fix them. So I'm going to title this video, Stupid Things in My RV That Need Fixing, and this is chapter 1. Now hopefully this will be a short book, but I fear that I'm going to have a whole lot of chapters, so this may be a long novel. But regardless, I got to fix this. I just can't leave this fuse holder just laying in there like that. It's just not up to any kind of standard. And I want to replace that fuse with something like this. This is a 10 amp circuit breaker made by Blue Sea, and this particular one has screw terminals. You can also get it with the lugs, and you can also get a boot that will cover the front of this. And I also found these nice little panel mount fuses, if you'd rather stay with a fuse. Now what we're doing is we're going to protect a motor from the water pump. So a fuse is not critical in this situation. You can use a circuit breaker just as easily. So you have to cut a square hole. And again, on my website, I have links for all this stuff. So I have sources for where you can buy it if you need to. And this is semi-waterproof. It's got a little snap-off cover. And it even has a little indicator light showing you if the fuse is blown or not. And it uses just a standard automotive type fuse. So these are really kind of nice, but I'm going to stick with the circuit breaker. And I'm going to semi-waterproof it with this boot, because this is going to go in the wet bay. And I also, from where I get all my panels done from Front Panel Express, I did buy a little custom plate, mounting plate. And if you're going to use this fuse, the best way would be to have these people build you a little plate with a slot in it. And you notice it's got a little flat spot on there that corresponds to the flat spot on here. And just like that, and you'll see it enough if it pops out, and then you can reset it. And also in the wet bay area, this is heat shrink wire connectors. And I'm also going to use heat shrink for splicing the wire into the fuse. Looking for places to put this. And I kind of want to save this area here for another project. So I think right here along this area is going to be the best. So I'm going to go behind and look in here and see where it's going to work best. And then I'm going to drill a hole. And I drilled the center hole here in one of the pilot holes for the plate. And I'm going to pop rivet that in place, and then I'll use the plate itself as a guide to drill the other holes. Now that we have the plate installed, we just install the breaker from the backside. You can see on the backside, here's the breaker. I've used heat shrink butt connectors to connect the wires to the breaker. And now I'm just going to put a layer of electrical tape on it just to kind of snug everything and keep it all secure. So there we are, the project is done. And I also found out that these knuckleheads did the same thing for the awning switch, that behind my console panel here, there's a 5 amp fuse. And so we're going to replace this one as well with this. So I'm just going to drill a hole in the side of this panel and put it in there. So I marked my cutout here, and I'm going to use this Porter Cable multi-tool. And if you don't have one of these, I recommend buying one, because they work better than anything else for cutting this kind of stuff. And well, now that we got our hole cut, we can just feed in our wire with our breaker on it. There we go. So now we just need to wire this up, and then I'm going to wait until I get the panel on before I put the screws in so I can get it all lined up correctly. And this fuse, this 5 amp fuse, actually goes to the awning light. And yet another stupid thing I found is the connectors that they use for a 1/4 inch tab. These are 0.187 inch, so they are using the wrong connectors. So I put a 187 connector on here, which actually holds it much tighter. And I used one of these type of splices. Now, these work pretty good. And as you can see here, they just flatten it. They're not really using the right tool, and it just came apart by tugging on it. So you need the right tool. And the tool I use is this. And it is a little pricey, but when you put the connector end in here, like that, and squeeze down on it, it actually crimps in 4 places, you can see here. Whereas when these guys put these on, all they're doing is crimping them with a crimp like that. They're not really squeezing them tight enough. So I found several of these in the RV where if you just tug on them, they'll pull right off. Okay, another job done.
And by the way, the 2 screws at the top of the panel here is what was holding the Mopipa tank check monitor for my propane tank. And if you look at my other videos, you'll see where it's at. And I just temporarily removed it